where we left off is we're talking about what we're going to do today and how we're going to start with a very basic intro to meditation, and then we'll go into our topic. And our topic's going to be a little bit of a continuation of last week, because last week was it was good. Like, I feel like we had a really good discussion. A lot of people had good experiences, and so that's the type of thing that when that happens, let's expand on it, right? So last week we talked a little bit about time management. We started talking about goals, and so we'll continue with that. All right. Let me just pop up my notes because they went away. All right, cool. Cool. All right, so let's get started by talking a little bit about what meditation is, because we might think it is just relaxing, and that is a part of it, but there's a much deeper definition to it, and that is it's a technique for becoming really familiar with stuff. That's my professional definition. So like, that's pretty vague. Get familiar with stuff. What does that even mean, right? And we definitely do not really associate mental familiarity with, like, we don't think like I'm familiarizing my mind with things. We don't talk like that. But we do familiarize our body with stuff all the time, right? Whether we're exercising or learning to, I don't know, ride a bike or walk, or like all these things, these kind of physical activities, right? We become more familiar with them over time, right? And as a result of this tried and true practice makes perfect kind of thing, what happens? It becomes easier, right? Less effort or energy needs to go into the activity itself, right? So if we take walking, it's kind of an extreme example, but there was a time where walking, you didn't know how to do it, right? And then the first couple of times you looked, it didn't look so graceful, but you're stumbling into the stuff. But now look at you, incredible! You're an incredible walker, and you can do all sorts of other things while walking, right? You can even walk backwards. That's crazy, right? You can do all these things, and the only difference in between you not being able to walk at all and you being the master of your walking craft right now is practice, right? It's familiarity. So this idea of things becoming second nature to the point that they start to flow a little bit more effortlessly, right? Cool. So we get that for learning stuff kind of in the physical sense, right? Even like a language, right? But what about mental? What about anxiety? What about being calm? What about being peaceful, right? Those are our mental mind states, right? And so this is where meditation really comes into play. And I think it starts to illuminate why it's so cool. Because it works the same way. Just like if we practice walking, we're going to be able to walk with less effort. If we practice being calm, well, we're going to be able to be calm with less effort. And that's our goal, right? If we really needed to like pause and stop, we probably can, but we don't want to have to do that every time. We want that to be our default, right? We want that to be natural for us, right? And so meditation is a great way to start training our mind to become super familiar with what we want to be familiar with, right? Because it works both ways, good and bad. It's not like this familiarity superpower is only for good. I have mentioned many times here that I got into meditation for like clinical anxiety and depression, and that is particularly anxiety. It is very steeped in familiarity, right? I have a phobia of itching, for example, but I wasn't born with that. That developed over time. And the first time I itched, I wasn't freaking out. It was a little bit of learned behavior each time to now it's the point where it's become a problem for me. It's really hard for me to revert, right? But the good news is that we can change our mind, because if our mind was not involved in this at all, then we would kind of be at the mercy of, I don't know, whatever would move us in one direction or the other. But our mind is able to learn, able to become familiar, and with a little bit of planning and practice and patience, we can start to dictate what we are familiar with. That's the beauty of meditation. It's about choice. It's about changing your mind's default kind of vibe, right? Cool. So how do we do that? Right? Sounds great. We're going to start with something called breathing meditation. You may have heard of this. It is pretty much the go-to starting point for introduction into meditation. And it isn't because it's like basic or beginner. In fact, it can be pretty challenging, right? The reason why we start with breathing meditation is because it teaches us one of the most valuable lessons about meditation, and that is that we don't need specific conditions to do this, right? It might be nice to go to the lake that's near your house. It might be nice to have the house to yourself to meditate, but it's not necessary to do that, right? We just need our breath, and we can work on this a little bit at a time. Our breath travels well, I guess is what I'm saying. So we're going to do a little breathing meditation. And if this is your first time, no worries. It's actually pretty straightforward instructionally. There's going to be 3 steps. Step 1, we're going to make a conscious choice to do this. Maybe that sounds ridiculous, but we often will have meditative experiences by accident, right? Or without trying to. If you've ever been in the zone at work, right? You're working on a project, you lose track of time, or you don't hear noises in the office anymore. It's like a meditative experience, right? We're so focused on something that there's not room in our mind for all the busyness. And that's what we're kind of going after, right? So that's the first step. And then the second step is we're going to actually focus single-pointedly on our own breath. And single-pointed concentration is the fancy way of saying meditate. And all it means is focusing on one thing so much, so exclusively, that our mind, all the space for the busyness, it starts to fill up with this focus on one thing. And there's no more room for the busyness. It starts to fade into the background. And we start to naturally feel a little bit more relaxed. Clarity is often a word that's used with it. Floaty, right? But the concept is that we focus so much on something that other stuff starts to fade a little bit, right? So we're going to do that. And then while we're doing that, and I'll be leading, so don't worry, you're not going to be on your own, you'll notice that your mind doesn't stay on your breath, right? Your mind is not used to doing this. Your mind is used to thinking about a lot of things. That's what it does. And so when we're like, hey, mind, focus on one thing, our mind is like, okay, cool. And then it's like, oh, let me think about work. It drifts. When we notice that our mind has drifted, and it doesn't matter how many times or what we're thinking about, who cares? Whenever we notice that our attention is no longer exclusively on our breath, we're going to say, not right now. That's our little saying here. We're not saying those thoughts are useless, just not now. And we're going to bring our attention back to breathing. So it's 3 steps. Choose to focus on your breath. Notice when your attention drifts, guide your attention back. Right? This is meditation, right? This practice. Right? We don't have to be perfect. In fact, the goal here is not to never get distracted, but to become better at noticing when you are distracted so you can do something about it, right? Again, this idea of choice, this idea of choosing where our mind's focus is big for meditation. Cool? Okay. So let's do a little breathing meditation. And you'll see I'm in a chair. Sometimes we think we got to sit on the floor. You don't need to, but you can. You should just find a seating arrangement that suits you. Be relatively comfortable. You don't have to sit in a position where your back's going to hurt or something like that. And you can go ahead and close your eyes. That'll help with some of the visual, the tendencies for visual distraction. And I'm going to guide us through a short breathing meditation together. Okay. Whenever we start a meditation, take a moment and check in. What does that mean, to check in? Ask yourself how you're feeling. Observe what your mind is up to in this exact moment. Maybe you're happy. Maybe you're feeling a little upset, tired, energetic, whatever it is. Doesn't matter. We're just practicing noticing. This is the first and most important step into being able to train your mind in meditation, is to start to take an interest in what your mind is up to. So take a moment and check in. And having done that, you can now choose, make a conscious choice. Turn your full, undivided attention to your own breath, breathing in, breathing out, very gently and very naturally. No need to change the way you breathe. No need to forcefully exhale air or take big, deep in-breaths. However you normally breathe is perfect. In, out, gently, naturally. At some point, you will undoubtedly notice your attention being pulled in different directions. Maybe you're thinking about something you have to do later after this class ends, or something that happened earlier in the day. Whenever you notice your mind drifting in this way, we can just say, not right now, to those thoughts. Place them aside. Imagine yourself placing them next to you. We will get to them later. And then guide your focus back to breathing. In and out. Gently, naturally. Single-pointedly focused on each moment of each breath. Can you follow each moment of breathing? Can you follow the air moment by moment as it enters your body when you breathe in? Can you watch it as it moves into your lungs? Can you feel your lungs filled with air, energy, your chest expanding? And what about when you breathe out? Can you follow the journey of the air there too? Can you watch as the air leaves your lungs, back into the atmosphere. It dissipates, mixes back in, ready to start the cycle all over again. Moment to moment interest in breathing in and out, gently, naturally. Keep bringing your attention back as many times as you need to. This process of choosing to focus single pointedly on your breath, noticing when your attention drifts, and then being able to guide your attention back to breathing. That is meditation. You are practicing meditation right now. You are training your mind to access its natural, peaceful state. You are training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. And right now, the only thing you want to focus on is breathing in and breathing out. Gently, naturally. Just for the last few moments here, just enjoy sitting. Take a little time for yourself. No need to think about much. Just relax. Okay. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Am I still here? Paranoid now about my internet. Okay, so that was breathing meditation. If you've done it before, cool. If not, you might be like, well, that was really hard. I can't focus on my breath at all. That was my experience. And to be honest, sometimes it still is. That's kind of how it goes, right? This is the practice is the goal here. And it's a big hurdle to get over because we want to be perfect. We want to say, okay, I'm going to meditate, and I sit down and I don't get distracted at all. I don't think about anything else but the thing that I decided, right? But our mind thinks, right? And that's okay. Our mind is going to think, right? It's not about trying to stymie that, right? It's about getting better at noticing when that's happening and, giving our mind a little pep talk. Hey, we'll get there. Bring it on back, right? So the practice itself is meditation, right? And it will get easier over time, just like anything else. Just like learning to walk, just like, writing your name. I was going to say in cursive, but I don't even know if they teach that anymore. I don't know. Cool. So that's breathing meditation. And if you are new, you stay with that. That in and of itself is like a powerful, beautiful practice. Help you relax, help you focus on what you want, kind of tap into this natural peacefulness. Pat, mine is all over the place. Hey, guess what? Good, you noticed it. That's the goal, right? The goal is to start to notice more what our mind is up to, because generally our mind is really busy and we don't pay attention to that, right? So then we come home from work or something, and our mind's just been going crazy all day. And then we're like, why am I so tired and exhausted? Or maybe we we're curt with somebody that we love, right? And we're like, oh, why was they doing that? Like, our mind is constantly being bombarded, right? And the first step to changing that is noticing that that's even happening, right? Practice always makes perfect, right? So I think even though it might not feel great to have your mind be bouncing, the fact that you notice that is a huge win, right? Think about all the times that your mind's probably doing that you're not noticing it, right? And over time, your mind's going to get used to doing this. It's going to look forward to it, right? So, good. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about, it's like a little continuation of last week. If you weren't here, don't worry, it doesn't matter. It was a really good discussion, I think. I got a lot of good feedback on it. So if you were not here, definitely encourage you to check that out. All my old videos are up on my YouTube channel. But I'm going to do a little recap because I think it's important. And what we're going to do today is building on what we did last time, right? So last time we were talking about, of course, goals. It's the new year, right? And we all have our New Year's resolutions, either, officially or unofficially. And this idea of accomplishing, changing, goal setting, right? It's kind of baked into this time of year, right? And so we were talking about, cool, how do we like manage that, right? And one of the big parts of managing that we talked about last week was time management, right? And then the other part was kind of checking why you're doing this. And that's what we're going to focus on again today, right? So this idea of asking yourself why, right? So we did a meditation on that. I call it the why meditation. I don't know, whatever it's called officially, I don't know. And so what did we do? We brought to mind this thing that we want to accomplish. Whatever your resolution is, if you don't have one, just something that pops into your mind, something that you'd like to do, right? And then we asked ourselves why. And then whatever reason we came up with for why, we kind of sat with that for a little bit, ruminated on it, let it bake a little bit, and then we ask ourselves why again. And again, and again, and again. And what we are doing is we are taking what we think is a goal that we want to do, and we're doing a little check to make sure that there isn't a deeper goal that we're actually trying to work towards, right? I'll call it like root intention, right? So why do we do this? Why is it beneficial? The things that motivate us are a lot of times really subtle, right? They're more nuanced than just, I want to do this, right? And if we think about the reasons why, we can start to gain some really interesting insight into the reasons that we are trying to move in direction A or B, right? So I'm going to give an example of one that I did. I did a little earlier today. And we'll see how where I start and where I end are very different, right? Okay, so I have chronic fatigue syndrome, and it is very annoying to me, as you might imagine. If you don't know what that is, it's just like random, like exhaustion. It is often triggered by doing even just minor activity, right? Okay, so my goal for 2024 is I want to try to help my CFS, become better, right? Be less tired, right? Why? And so I think about that. Why do I want to be less tired? Because it's frustrating to just be randomly exhausted, right? So that's what I thought of in my mind as I was meditating. Right? So now my reasoning has gone from help CFS to it's frustrating to be exhausted, right? So now I'm thinking about that, and I asked myself why. And the thing I came up with was really interesting. And it was because it's annoying to have to explain to people why I'm randomly exhausted. So now this is getting interesting, right? Because where I started was of a very specific, this is a condition that I want to get rid of, right? And where I am now is like justifying it is kind of a big pain point for me, right? So I asked myself why again. And the thing that I thought of was because I don't want people to think that I'm lying, right? And this touches on, a lot of personal things for me, right? I feel like people don't take me seriously sometimes, or like think I'm like not always joking, or like I'm kind of a goof, or I'm a flake. Like these are thoughts I have about myself, right? And so my goal for 2024 started as this very surface level, there's this ailment I have and I don't want it, right? And then as I dug deeper, I started to realize that the reasons I don't want that are a lot more nuanced than simply I don't want chronic fatigue, right? So that's the kind of benefit of doing this why meditation. And if you were not here again last week, don't worry. We're going to do another little one together, and then we're going to branch off. But I just wanted to give an example of what this thought process kind of leads to, right? And so that's really our first step, right? We have this idea of what we want to accomplish, right? We have a goal, and then we want to check why, right? Just to make sure that we're not missing anything. And so after we do this activity, Rob, I appreciate that. Yep. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. After we do this activity, the next step is, okay, well, I've now have some deeper layers of things, of reasons that I want to do this. Does that change anything for me? Right? So now what we want to do is widen our plans. Right? So if you think about my example, help my chronic fatigue syndrome, it's very narrow, right? It's like precise, right? There's a thing I want to do, right? And I believe if I do this, I'll be happier, right? Oh, Tracy, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yep, no problem. So on the surface, right, it feels as if my chronic fatigue is the be-all, end-all of the reasons that I'm not happy, right? And if I can change this, attain this in 2024, I'm gonna be good, right? Now, that's the surface level, but as I dug deeper, I started to get into stuff about me having like a fear of reputation, a fear of what other people think about me, right? Does removing my CFS change that? I don't think so, right? Because that's a much deeper issue than I get tired, right? And so what this does for us is it allows us to take a goal that's narrow and start to widen it. That way we gain a level of flexibility, right? And so this word flexibility is something we talk about a lot in meditation. In fact, it's pretty much like a flexible mind is really what we're going for with meditation, right? And flexibility, all that means is kind of like an understanding that things might go this way, things might go that way. I can adapt. If my CFS doesn't go away in 2024, I got other things I can do to help, right? That's kind of like what we want to take out of this, right? Because if we don't go deeper, If we don't do our little why meditation, right? So let's say I didn't do that, and then I get through 2024 and I still have chronic fatigue, which is probably likely. I'm going to be frustrated. I'm going to be upset. I'm going to feel like a failure. I didn't accomplish my goals, right? But really, was my goal to get rid of CFS, or was my goal to start to work on some of these underlying issues, right? And so just even thinking about them starts to open up different paths to get to where we want to be, right? Flexibility. You can kind of think about it as this like idea of like widening as armor against discouragement, or like I'll let say, right? Discouragement is when we kind of like maybe we're procrastinating and then we become disinterested in this goal that was really important to us, and now we're thinking about how I'm right back where I started. I haven't made any gains, right? And we get discouraged, right? And that discouragement leads to more procrastination, more non-action, right? And so this idea of widening the paths we can take to get to where we want to be is like an armor that we put on, right? So if we take a little hit on the shoulder, right? Well, we're fine. We could take we got more shoulder over here, right? So if I don't cure my CFS in 2024, there's a lot of other things I can do now that I've illuminated some things to work on, right? And this, I just think, is a really wonderful way to take goals, which are great, like having goals is incredible, and also work on being patient with yourself, flexible with the kind of uncertainty of life, right? Critical thinking, problem solving, like there's so many things that come out of this, right? And just like we were talking about before with riding a bike or walking or whatever, meditating, as we do this more, the more we kind of dig deeper, right? And then widen our plans to get to where we want to be. This is going to become second nature to us. We're going to naturally have a wider view of things, right? Maybe a little bit more objective too, right? About things. So this is just a really wonderful tandem meditation, this idea of digging deeper with why, and then taking that and being like, how does that change how I might get there? Cool? All right. So I want to do a little a meditation that incorporates both of these. And if you were here last week, we're going to start by doing some of that why stuff again. And you don't need to keep the same thing that you did if you were here, but you can. And if you weren't, I want you to just take a moment, even right now, and just think about something that you want to do in the next year, right? It does not need to be some monumental thing, climb Everest. It can be, do whatever you want. But I don't know. do laundry more regularly would be a good one for me, right? Yeah, that's a good goal, right? So it doesn't have to be some intense thing. Take whatever kind of comes to you. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that as our starting point. And then we're going to dig a little deeper. And then once we get deep enough, we're going to think about how this changes my approach to my 2024 resolution goal stuff, right? Does this widen my plans? Does this open up other possibilities? Does this make me feel like I can be more resilient if something doesn't go exactly as planned? Cool? Any questions on this before we get started? I know I'm moving really fast, but part of it is because I was doing internet outage for the first 10 minutes. I want to be respectful of your time. Okay. So we'll start this very similarly to breathing meditation. We're going to do a little breathing meditation. And then when we kind of move into this other contemplation meditation, you just follow along with what I'm doing, right? There's no like nothing you really need to know beforehand. We're just going to think. Just going to use our mind and think. All right? Cool. Okay. You can go ahead and close your eyes. Take a moment to check in. How are you feeling? It's not a comparison to before. Before is done. Only now. And having taken some inventory of what your mind is up to, you can direct your mind to your own breath, following it in and out, gently, naturally. And whenever your mind drifts, thinking about something that happened earlier or maybe work tomorrow, we can just say, not right now to those thoughts. We'll put them aside. And then guide your attention back to your breath. You are in the driver's seat of your own thoughts. Just check in again. Where's your attention? Is it still on your breath? Great. If not, no big deal. Just bring it back. There's no bar for success here. You practicing is perfect, is success. Breathing in, breathing out, gently, naturally. And having done some breathing meditation, we are setting ourselves up to be able to think a little bit more clearly about something, right? We've relaxed our mind a little bit, even just microscopically. But even that little amount can translate into big moments of clarity, realizations. And so we are going to take advantage of our more relaxed mind to think about something. I'd like you to bring to mind something you want to accomplish in the next year. Big, small, it does not matter. Just be honest with yourself. Picture this thing in your mind. What does it feel like to accomplish it? Really sit with it. Picture it clearly in your mind. And then ask yourself, why? Why do I want to accomplish this? whatever you think of, whatever answer you come up with. Sit with that. Let it wash over you. And then ask yourself why again. And let your answer sit in your mind, front and center. Look at it, observe it, feel it. Ask yourself why again. And one more time, why? You've now dug 5 layers deeper. You've taken a surface level view of something and inspected it for some subtlety, for some nuance. What did you find? Is your answer different than when you started? There's no right or wrong answer. We're just noticing. We're an investigator. And we've just uncovered some more clues into the things that we want. We've gone from a narrow view of what it means to accomplish this goal, and we've expanded it. We've opened the door. And on the other side of that door is a lot of different paths to get to where you want to be. So for the next couple of moments, I want you to think about how the answer that you landed on, how does that change your approach? Does it spark any ideas of other ways to reach your goal? To keep moving your self-help practice forward? Allow your mind to enjoy this newfound flexibility. Allow your mind to enjoy this wider view of who you are and where you want to go. Now you have your armor on and you're ready. You're ready to accomplish your goals. In whatever ways come before you. Feel strong. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. I'm talking to myself there a little bit. How'd that go? Again, I know we're kind of doubling up, but I think it's important because we don't think like this a lot. And so, doing a meditation once, being like, oh, that was really cool. Like, yeah, it was really cool. But if we want to start to have this kind of deeper level of investigation of ourselves, become less abnormal, more second nature, we got to repeat it, right? We got to repeat it. Right? And sometimes we find different things between each time, right? So hopefully, whether or not it was your first time doing this or second, you got a glimpse into some of the other subtleties that go into our desires, our wants, the things that we want to accomplish, right? And then a really important step that we added on here today is, okay, cool. We've noticed that. We've investigated. We've got some extra insight. So what, right? What do we do with that information, right? And there's a lot of ways we can go, but I think really for me personally, I like to take that and start to expand the different ways I can get down that path, right? So for me, helping my fatigue starts to become more achievable because it's not as narrow, right? Because it's not just about my fatigue. It's about how I think people view me, right? It's about how I feel like I have to justify how I'm feeling, right? Cool. That's it. Well, that's a lot, right? Thank you guys for your patience. Sorry I was having some internet trouble earlier. It's been a while since I've had that, so I've been on a good luck streak. So hopefully this is it for a bit. Do come on back next week. We're going to talk about some other meditation stuff. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I encourage you to do so. All my old videos are up there. Maybe you missed last week. We've been talking a lot about it. You want to go check it out. Doesn't cost anything. It's just a little click of a button, and then you get some notifications when I'm going live. And it definitely helps me out too. So nice little two-way street. And then finally, if you have any questions that come up as you're meditating on your own, or if you have any interest in maybe doing a private one-on-one session with me, I'm going to give you my email now. It's keith@meditationbreaks.com. Keith, I'm saying that to myself so I don't spell it incorrectly. Meditationbreaks.com. Looks good. That's my email. Any questions you have, feel free to send them my way. If you do want to do a one-on-one, it's a great way to start to deepen your practice. I do them virtually. It's very laid back. Email me. We'll find a time that works. Right. Thank you, everyone, for being here and for your patience and for your thoughtfulness and your wonderful comments. You guys are the best. I really do appreciate you being here every week. So thank you. Thanks, Joanne. I appreciate that. Glad you had a good experience. And hopefully I see you guys all next week. All right. Take care.